Hey man, let me hit you with something no one else has the balls to say. Women don't sell their soul to men who try to impress them. They don't give their body, their heart, their loyalty, or their mind to the guy who texts paragraphs, plans surprise dates, or says good morning every day, like clockwork. That might get you a smile, it might even get you a little attention, but if you want a woman to be haunted by your presence, if you want her to feel you in her dreams, stalk you in her silence, and obsess over you even when she's with another man, then you need to learn how to carry yourself in a way that makes her entire identity feel small in comparison to your masculine presence. You don't chase, you don't prove, you don't perform, you exist like gravity, heavy, centered, unbothered. You speak less, but your silence screams. And when you start acting like that, bro, women don't just want you, they need you. They'll lie, cheat, manipulate, cry, confess, beg, destroy everything they've built just to orbit around you. Not because you're trying to win them, but because you're unshakable. It all starts with one shift. The shift from seeking to selecting. Most men walk into relationships hoping to be picked. They fix their hair, overthink their texts, and lose sleep wondering if they're good enough for a woman who hasn't earned a damn thing. But the man she'll sell her soul for? He walks in like a king surveying his court. He doesn't ask, will she like me? He asks, is she worthy of my energy? That mindset, brother, changes everything. Suddenly your energy becomes scarce, your attention becomes sacred, and when a woman feels that you're evaluating her, not with desperation, but with discernment, her world shifts. She starts craving your validation like oxygen. She'll start bending her behavior, adjusting her tone, softening her words, just to stay in your good graces. And not because you demanded it, but because she feels your value, and she knows she can't afford to lose it. See, women are emotional creatures. Their entire sense of reality is wrapped in what they feel, not what they know. So when you act like a man who cannot be swayed, when your tone is steady, your eyes are calm, your presence is grounded, she starts to feel that she's in the presence of something bigger than herself, something she can't manipulate, something that doesn't flinch when she tests you. And this is important. She will test you. She'll pull away. She'll ignore your message. She'll flirt with someone in front of you just to see if you crumble. But when you act like a man who doesn't need her approval, when your emotions don't spike with her games, she starts to feel powerless. And that's when she'll start pouring everything she has into trying to earn your attention back. Not because you begged for her loyalty, but because you embodied the kind of strength she cannot fake. Here's where most guys mess it up. They hear this and think it means being cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. But that's not what this is about. This isn't about punishing women or playing hard to get. This is about mastering yourself. This is about becoming so emotionally grounded that nothing she says, nothing she does, and nothing she threatens can shake the peace you've built inside. Because the truth is, women crave leadership, but not the kind that bosses them around. They crave the kind of man who leads himself. The man who doesn't argue when she's being irrational. The man who doesn't beg when she pulls away. The man who can stand still when the storm hits and who walks away if the storm becomes the norm. That man, that's the one she dreams about at night, even while sleeping next to someone else. Women don't fall for logic. They fall for energy. And the rarest energy in a man is calm detachment. It's when your eyes say, I want you, but I don't need you. When your presence says, I'm here, but I could walk away without a word. That energy, that's the death blow to her ego and the birth of her obsession. Because now, you're not just another guy trying to get her attention. You're the man who can make her feel invisible if she breaks your standard. You're the man who values peace over pleasure, growth over validation, and purpose over women. And trust me, when you walk like that, talk like that, and live like that, she starts offering you everything just to be seen by you again. That's when you know you've got her soul. Not because you demanded it, but because she freely surrendered it. Let me tell you something brutally honest. Women are not loyal to potential. They're loyal to power. Not dominance, not control, but presence. They crave the man whose silence is louder than another man's words. They crave the man who listens more than he speaks. But when he speaks, it feels like scripture. And when you start operating like that, when every move you make feels intentional, when your schedule is tight because you're building your legacy, when your voice doesn't rise but your presence does, that's when she starts losing sleep over you. That's when she checks her phone every 5 minutes, wondering why you haven't texted. That's when she cries over your indifference, not because you hurt her, but because she feels that your life was never about her in the first place. This is the paradox that breaks most women. She'll try to change you, soften you, make you emotional, pull you into her chaos, because if she can get you to react, then she owns you. But if you stay still, if you remain unfazed, if you never text her again after she disrespects you, she starts to crumble. Her entire fantasy of control shatters. She realizes she can't mold you, she can't bait you, she can't trigger you, and now she starts seeing you not as a man, but as a force. And that's what women truly surrender to. Not charm, not effort, not looks. They surrender to force of character. The kind of man who walks away without anger. The kind of man who doesn't explain himself. The kind of man who lets her sit in silence long enough to feel her own foolishness. And here's what's even more powerful. When you walk away without closing the door, you don't block her. You don't call her names. You don't throw a tantrum. You simply disappear. Like a ghost with boundaries, and that silence, that stillness, it becomes a mirror. She sees her reflection in the space you left behind. She sees her mistakes, her games, her emotional immaturity, and that pain doesn't hit her all at once. It creeps in slowly, at night, in the car, while she's with another man who doesn't command her soul like you did. That's when it hits her. You weren't just different, you were the one. And she lost you, not because you left, but because she didn't rise. But here's the truth, man. None of this works if you're faking it. You can't pretend to be grounded while obsessively watching her stories. You can't act like a king while secretly hoping she texts back. That's why this isn't a tactic. It's a transformation. It's becoming the man who actually believes that he's the prize. The man who doesn't settle for attention when he's worthy of devotion. The man who doesn't compromise his standards just to feel wanted. Because women can feel it. They can smell desperation under fake detachment. But when it's real, when you're genuinely indifferent because you're so locked into your own vision, your own goals, your own empire, that's when she feels powerless around you. That's when she stops trying to control you and starts trying to keep you. So hear me now. Once you act like this, not fake confidence, not surface level alpha nonsense, but true, grounded, unreactive masculine energy, women will betray their own logic for you. They'll leave stable relationships for you. They'll cancel dates, confess feelings, beg, cry, stalk, and sabotage their own comfort just to get your attention. Not because you manipulated them, but because you made them feel something no one else could. You gave them nothing, and they felt everything. You didn't chase, and they couldn't stop running back. You didn't reply, and your silence became louder than every love letter they ever got. That's power, my brother. And once you've lived like this, you'll never go back to begging for attention again. Once you act like this, something shifts, not just in how women see you, but in how you see yourself. You stop waiting for attention. You stop checking your phone like your worth depends on a damn notification. You walk into a room differently. Your shoulders aren't tense. Your eyes don't scan for approval. Your smile isn't forced. You carry the weight of your own value, and people feel it before you even speak. That's what women react to. Not words, not lines, not gifts, but energy. A man who doesn't need to prove himself is magnetic. A man who can sit in silence without anxiety, who can leave without flinching, who can be alone without feeling lonely. That's the man who burns into her memory and stays there, long after the others have faded. Let's talk about unpredictability, not chaos, not instability. I'm talking about the kind of unpredictability that comes from emotional independence, when she can't quite read you, when she doesn't know what you're thinking, when she can't predict how you'll respond because you don't respond like most men. That's when she becomes emotionally invested. Because it's not drama she craves, it's the thrill of uncertainty in the presence of strength. If she knows you'll text back within 5 minutes, she stops valuing your time. If she knows she can disrespect you and you'll still stick around, she stops respecting your boundaries. But when she doesn't know if she still has you, that's when the obsession begins. She'll replay every interaction, reread your messages, analyze your tone, trying to decode a man who refuses to be decoded. That's when she starts feeling again. That's when she starts chasing. Here's a cold truth. Women don't fantasize about the man who gives them everything. They fantasize about the man they can't fully have, the man who left a question mark in their heart, the one who showed them what calm strength feels like and then vanished without a warning. That man becomes her mystery, her itch she can't scratch, her what if, and that's why she'll sell her soul trying to solve you. She'll call you at midnight, she'll break her own rules, she'll tell her friends she doesn't care while checking your profile in secret, and the deeper irony, you didn't do anything to cause this, you just were. You were grounded, you were centered, you were too focused on your own path to revolve around hers. And that absence of neediness created a vacuum so strong it pulled her in harder than any pickup line ever could. You've got to understand, the man who acts like this doesn't just attract women, he filters them. He doesn't get stuck with the low quality ones, the ones playing games, the ones looking for emotional babysitters. He attracts women who are willing to grow, to rise, to become better in order to stand beside him. And the ones who aren't, they disappear, they self-sabotage, they ghost him. But that's the beauty of it. When you hold your frame like steel, the wrong ones eliminate themselves. You don't have to argue, you don't have to prove your worth. You simply stay on your path and watch as the chaos tries to keep up or burns out trying. That's how you protect your peace. That's how you build a life so solid no woman can shake it, only add to it, or get left behind. Let me say something that will hit deep. If you've ever been heartbroken, the woman who hurt you, who ghosted you, who left you confused and questioning your own value, she didn't win, not even close. Because women don't remember the man who begged. They don't remember the guy who chased. They remember the man who disappeared after being disrespected, the one who left them staring at their screen wondering what happened. That man becomes unforgettable. He becomes the standard. Every man after him gets measured against his calm, his silence, his strength, and no one quite compares, because they weren't him. And the most savage part? He never even needed closure. He was the closure. His exit said everything his words never had to. There's a reason this works. It plays directly into female psychology. See, women crave emotional stimulation. And when you're calm, grounded, and mysterious, you create a roller coaster without doing anything dramatic. One day you're kind, the next day you're distant. Not because you're playing games, but because your focus is never on her 24/7s. You have work, goals, purpose. That imbalance, it drives her mad in the best way. She starts working for your time. She starts chasing your attention. She starts fighting for a space in your world. And that's where the roles flip. Now she's the one thinking about every text. She's the one getting butterflies when you reply. She's the one who feels the power slipping out of her hands. And that's when she invests. That's when she gives more. That's when you become the man she would trade her comfort, her rules, and even her pride just to keep. You want to know the real reason women get bored in relationships? It's not because the guy stopped trying. It's because he started over-trying. He stopped being mysterious. He became predictable. He started checking in too much, asking too often, giving too freely. He became an emotional servant instead of a sovereign. And when that happens, her attraction dies, quietly, slowly, without warning. She starts texting other men just for attention. She starts pulling away, claiming she needs space. But really, she just misses the tension, the fire, the masculine polarity. That's why when you act like the mountain, not the wind, when you hold your ground, instead of chasing her shadow, she stops drifting. She leans in, she gets addicted, because your stillness gives her something no emotional outburst ever will, security. And that deep down is all she's ever really wanted. Here's what most men never understand. Being emotionally calm is not weakness, it's dominance. Emotional chaos is a test, always has been, always will be. When she cries, when she complains, when she throws drama your way, it's not always about the issue, it's about the response. Will you crumble? Will you yell? Will you beg? Or will you stand there like a rock, unbothered, listening, but not reacting? That moment defines everything. Because if you can stay grounded when she's spinning, you become her anchor, her safe place, her mental obsession. And the more you hold that frame, the more she molds herself to fit inside it. Not because you forced her, but because she chose you as the one man she couldn't shake. And let me tell you, once a woman sees you like this, no other man will measure up. You become the ghost in every conversation, the phantom she compares every date to. He might be nicer, funnier, richer, but he won't feel like you. He won't have your calm. He won't have your discipline. He won't have your energy. And that difference, it haunts her, especially when she realizes too late that your silence was love in its highest form, that you walking away wasn't punishment, it was proof that you loved yourself more than you loved her games. And that, my brother, is what turns you from an ex into a legend. So if you want to be the man she thinks about years after she let you go, the man she stalks in silence, dreams about at night, and regrets losing long after she moved on, then act like this, not once, not when it's convenient, but always. Live in this mindset. Breathe it. Become the kind of man who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't lower himself just to feel loved. And then watch as the world, especially the women in it, start bending around your gravity. They won't understand it. They'll call it arrogance. They'll call it coldness. But deep down, they'll feel it, and they'll never forget it. The most dangerous man to a woman's psyche is the one who doesn't need her, yet still chooses her, selectively, temporarily, conditionally. That's the man who rewires how she sees herself, because she's used to being the one in control, the one who gets chased, the one who gets to decide how the story ends. But when she meets a man who isn't fazed by her beauty, her silence, or her tantrums, she becomes addicted to the unpredictability of it all. She starts showing up, softer, humbler, more attentive. And why? Because he made her feel something rare. Challenge. In a world where everyone bends over backwards for her attention, this man just nods and continues walking. That's the one who breaks her patterns. That's the one who she'll cry about, scream about, write about, but never get over. That's the man who could have had her, but didn't need to. See, when you act like this, you stop getting pulled into the emotional tornado. You no longer orbit around her moods, her needs, her timeline. Instead, you become the center of gravity. She rotates around you. And this isn't about ego, it's about leadership. A woman doesn't want a man she can lead emotionally. She wants a man who creates a calm, powerful space where she can be emotional but still feel safe. That's the difference. Most guys either avoid her emotions or try to fix them. But the man she'll surrender everything for, he just holds the frame. He doesn't react. He listens, nods, and remains unmoved. And that stillness becomes her obsession, because it means she finally met someone who won't break just because she's storming. And the more you hold that space, the more she trusts you, without even knowing why. Here's something women will never admit out loud. They fantasize about the man who makes them feel like a little girl again. Not in weakness, but in surrender. They want to feel safe, seen, held, not coddled, but led. And when you act like a man who doesn't flinch, when you don't chase, don't explain, don't perform, she starts feeling that childhood longing resurface. The desire to be around someone bigger than her chaos. That's what unlocks a woman on a soul level. And once you give her a taste of that, she'll sell her soul to get it back. Even if it means crawling back after disrespecting you, even if it means breaking every rule she made, because that feeling of being in the presence of real masculine energy, it's rarer than diamonds. And when she finds it, it ruins her for everyone else. Let me tell you something that'll piss off every average man who's still out here simping. Effort is not what wins women over. Energy does. You can text her good morning every day, buy her flowers, compliment her 100 times, and still lose her to the guy who barely looks her way. Why? Because that guy is unpredictable. That guy is focused on himself. That guy is not performing, he's just existing. And his existence demands attention. It demands curiosity. It demands respect. So while the nice guy is trying to win her love like a contest, the man of value is sitting in silence, sipping coffee, working on his vision, and she's wondering why he hasn't texted her back yet. And that thought, that question mark, that's what keeps her hooked. It's not love, it's mystery. And the man who learns to weaponize mystery, brother, never has to chase again. You want to know what kills female desire faster than anything? Predictability. When she knows you'll always answer, when she knows you'll never walk away, when she knows she has you no matter how she behaves, that's when she stops feeling anything. Desire dies in comfort, but when you become the man who can disappear in silence after one red flag, when you set a standard and actually enforce it, that's when she starts questioning herself. She starts replaying your conversations. She starts checking her own behavior. Why? Because you became the one man who didn't fold. And that kind of man doesn't just attract women, he rewires them, he makes them better. not through preaching, not through force, but through the sheer power of not needing them. And here's the twist. Most men never see coming. Once you reach this level of self-respect, the women who once ignored you come back. They'll crawl back into your DMs, they'll like your stories, reply to your old texts, send, hey, messages at 2 a.m. Not because they suddenly changed, but because your energy did. You're no longer the man they could manipulate. You're no longer that emotional puppet. You've upgraded. And now, they're chasing a ghost of what they once had access to, but never valued. That's what your absence becomes a legend, and they'll chase the shadow of who you used to be, trying to taste that energy again. But by then, you won't even be interested. Because once you start living like this, you don't go back to begging. You don't go back to explaining yourself. You don't go back to seeking validation from people who didn't see your worth the first time. And let me make something crystal clear. This isn't about being cold. This isn't about turning into some emotionally numb alpha. This is about balance, emotional discipline. You still feel, you still love, you still care, but you choose when and where to show it. You're not led by impulse. You're not dragged by emotion. You're not reacting to her chaos. You're calm because you've built yourself. That kind of emotional control is terrifying to the average woman. Why? Because she can't control it. She can't manipulate it, and that forces her to level up or leave. And either way, you win. Because you either get a woman who rises to your standard, or you get the peace of not being drained by someone who couldn't. The more you act like this, the more you start to notice something strange. Women start competing for your attention without you doing a thing. One starts texting more. One starts dressing differently around you. Another starts being extra kind. Why? Because they feel your energy before you even say a word. You walk into a room with presence, you sit down, and the whole vibe changes. That's what happens when you carry yourself like a man who doesn't chase. You become rare, you become valuable, and in a world full of noise, that quiet strength becomes the loudest frequency. It attracts the feminine like a magnet, not through force but through frequency. You ever see a woman lose her mind over a man who barely talks? It's not a mystery. It's masculine energy. It's the unshakable vibe of, I'm good with or without you. That energy makes her question everything, makes her doubt every power she thought she had. It makes her second guess the next move, because now she's no longer in control. Now she's reacting. And that emotional shift, that's when she gives up the act. That's when she starts being real. That's when the games stop and the honesty starts. Not because you forced it, but because you created the space where her masks couldn't survive. So listen closely. Once you act like this, you'll lose a few women. The ones who can't manipulate you. The ones who crave attention more than truth. The ones who only feel powerful when they have you on your knees. They'll vanish. They'll call you cold. They'll call you arrogant. Let them. Because the ones who remain, the women who stay, they'll be the kind who feel you, who respect you, who are willing to meet you in reality instead of dragging you into their fantasy. And those women, they won't just date you, they'll submit to you, not out of fear, but out of admiration, out of reverence, out of the deep emotional knowing that they've finally met a man who doesn't just talk like he values himself, but actually lives it. There's a certain glow that surrounds a man who's moved on from the need to prove his worth. He doesn't walk faster, talk louder, or flash his accomplishments. He's just still, and that stillness, it radiates authority. He doesn't tell people who he is, they just feel it. And women, they sense it before they even understand it. It's in the way you look at her without needing anything back. It's in the way you say less because your life is already full. It's in the way you smile, not because she complimented you, but because you're just at peace. That kind of energy is rare. That kind of presence is spiritual. It makes her question every guy she's ever dated. It makes her slow down, soften her voice, check her reflection twice before she speaks, and she'll swear she's not falling. But her body language, her voice, her sudden vulnerability, it'll tell the truth she won't say. Once you act like this, you realize something wild. You are the prize. Not in a cocky way, not in a boastful Instagram quote kind of way, but in the deeply internal knowing that your time, your energy, your presence, it's all gold. And not everyone deserves access to that gold. So you stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for your standards. You stop second-guessing yourself when someone tries to manipulate you with guilt or emotion, because you understand this simple truth. Any woman who truly values you will respect your boundaries. She won't need to be convinced. She won't need to be reminded. And the ones who don't, you won't argue with them. You'll just remove yourself from their access. That's real power. The ability to walk away silently without burning bridges, but also without ever looking back. Let's be clear. Every time you tolerate disrespect, you teach her how to treat you. Every time you respond to ghosting with another message, every time you explain yourself after being accused unfairly, every time you let a woman test your value by withdrawing, you lose a piece of your masculine edge, not because you're weak, but because you're playing her game instead of building your own. And once you act like a man who no longer plays emotional chess, the entire game changes. You don't respond to disrespect, you vanish. You don't ask for clarity, you observe patterns. You don't seek validation, you embody value. And the more you move like this, the more the right women come correct and the wrong ones fall off before they can even enter your world. There's nothing more intoxicating to a feminine woman than the man who knows where he's going and doesn't need her to co-sign it. You don't pause your mission to win her affection. You don't rearrange your schedule just because she finally texted back. You're not rude, you're not cold, you're just aligned. You have purpose, you have structure, and your life is built with or without her. That certainty makes her feel safe, but also challenged, because deep down, she knows she can't offer surface-level behavior to a man who's already built a kingdom. So what does she do? She adapts, she evolves. She starts asking herself, how can I fit into his world? And that right there, that's the shift that most men chase through effort, but you create through presence. You ever notice how the men women obsess over are never the ones begging for their time? It's not a coincidence. It's emotional economics. What's abundant gets taken for granted. What's scarce becomes valuable. If she knows you'll always answer, always show up, always be there, no matter how she treats you, she'll never feel the need to earn you. But the second she feels the risk of losing you, not because you threatened her, but because you genuinely have other priorities, she starts chasing, she starts adjusting, she starts caring more. And that's not manipulation, that's nature. That's the reality of masculine and feminine polarity. One leads, one follows. And when you stop leading with your emotions and start leading with your discipline, she stops treating you like an option and starts seeing you as a standard. You don't have to argue to prove your worth. You don't have to yell to demand respect. The most powerful men in the world don't shout, they whisper. They walk into a room and everyone leans in, not because they're loud, but because they're undeniable. And that's what you need to become, a presence that speaks without words. A man who doesn't have to defend his value because it's self-evident in how he moves. You don't chase closure, you don't demand attention, you walk. And when you walk, doors open. Not because you begged, but because your energy commanded them to. And women, they feel it. They may resist it. They may test it. But deep down, they respect it. And more than anything, they want it. Once you act like this, you'll notice how women start earning your time instead of expecting it. She'll be on time. She'll dress up for you. She'll text first. She'll start asking questions about your goals, your schedule, your mindset. Not because you asked her to, but because your energy now creates standards. You no longer have to tell her to stop playing games. She stops on her own because she senses you won't tolerate it. And if she doesn't stop, you don't argue, you don't debate, you disappear. And that silence, that lack of emotional engagement, that's what breaks her patterns more than any lecture ever could. It forces her to reflect, to feel, to grow. And even if she doesn't say it, she'll know she messed up. The moment she realizes she can't reach you anymore. One of the most attractive things to a woman isn't money, looks, or status. It's emotional discipline. The man who doesn't respond to every mood. The man who doesn't seek revenge when disrespected. The man who keeps his tone calm even when he's angry. That man, he feels safe, he feels rare, and that rarity triggers something ancient in her biology. She sees stability, she sees leadership, she sees fatherhood, even if she's not thinking about kids. Because you've tapped into the deepest masculine frequency, containment. You don't react, you contain, you don't explode, you lead. And when a woman feels that, she lowers her defenses, she melts. She submits, not because you forced her to, but because she feels seen, held, and respected by a man who cannot be moved. And don't confuse emotional discipline with being emotionless. You still feel, you still care, you still get angry, hurt, passionate, inspired. But those emotions don't run you, they inform you. They sit in the back seat while your purpose drives. And when a woman sees that, she starts trusting you, even if she doesn't fully understand you. Because deep down, every feminine woman wants to trust a man's leadership. She wants to lean on someone who doesn't flinch. And when you become that man, not just once but always, you don't need to chase women anymore. You become the gravity they orbit around, the calm they crave, the standard they try to reach, even if it costs them everything. So if you've ever felt tired of chasing, exhausted from being misunderstood, sick of being emotionally drained, this is your answer. Stop playing their game. Stop reacting. Stop proving. Start being. Be the man who doesn't flinch. The man who doesn't explain himself to people who aren't listening. The man who walks alone, not because he can't find someone, but because he refuses to settle for anyone who doesn't meet his standard. And once you become that man, everything changes. Women change. Opportunities change. Your peace changes. And you'll look back one day at the version of you that used to beg, text, overthink, and overgive, and you'll smile, because you'll realize that man had to die for this man to be born. Once you act like this, your world becomes peaceful, not because life gets easier, but because you stop allowing chaos access. You start filtering everything, not just women, but friends, distractions, time wasters, energy vampires. You become surgical with your presence. You don't entertain people who drain you. You don't explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. And this discipline bleeds into everything. Your mornings become sharper, your work ethic strengthens, your circle tightens, and the result, your value multiplies. And women can feel that. They can smell the focus. They can see it in your eyes. That tunnel vision, that calm grind, that emotional invincibility. And whether they say it or not, they want in. Because nothing draws the feminine like a man who's built something she can feel but not control. There's something spiritual about a man who no longer moves for attention. He doesn't chase likes. He doesn't argue with haters. He doesn't seek validation from women, family, or strangers. His life is his proof. His results are his voice. And when he speaks, it's not often, but when he does, everyone listens. That's the man women dream about, not the guy trying to be funny in the comments, not the one buying her things hoping she'll stay, but the man who speaks less and builds more, who doesn't flaunt, he just is. And that presence haunts her in the best way. Because in a world full of noise, clowns, and boys, she met a man who reminded her what silence with substance feels like. And once she feels that, she'll chase that feeling for the rest of her life, even if she never finds it again. You know what's more powerful than saying, I don't need her? Showing it. With your time, with your focus, with your silence. When she pulls back and you don't chase. When she disrespects you and you don't engage. When she ghosts you and you don't double text. Those are the loudest statements you can ever make. Because now, she's left with her own thoughts, her own guilt, her own regret. And that space you didn't fill with desperate effort, it becomes a vacuum. And in that vacuum, she starts feeling things she didn't expect. Confusion, loss, curiosity, jealousy. And it all leads to one thought: why didn't he chase me? And that question, brother, that question haunts her. Because she's used to men breaking their backbone to earn her validation. And you walked away like a king with better things to do. Let's talk about loyalty. A woman doesn't become loyal because you beg. She doesn't stay because you remind her of your worth. She becomes loyal when she feels anchored, when your energy makes her feel safe to submit. And that safety doesn't come from giving her everything. It comes from giving her structure, boundaries, consistency, calm. That's what wins hearts long term. Not gifts, not poems, not poetic, text at 3 a.m., but the ability to say, this is how I live, you're welcome to join, but never allowed to break it. That line, that standard, it becomes her container. And when she feels it's real, not talk, not pretend, but enforced truth, that's when she locks in. That's when her soul starts pouring into the relationship. Because now she finally found a man whose frame she can rest inside. The deeper you go into this energy, the more you realize most women have never experienced a man like this. They've had attention, they've had gifts, they've had obsession, but they've never had discipline paired with desire. They've never had a man who wanted them but didn't need them. A man who could desire their presence but would never collapse if they walked away. And that paradox, it's maddening and magnetic. It makes her look at herself differently. She starts asking, am I enough for him? Not out of insecurity, but because you flipped the script. You're no longer auditioning, she is. And the longer she stays around you, the more she starts working on herself, her body, her attitude, her habits. Why? Because she feels the weight of your standard and doesn't want to lose access to it. You ever notice how the women you obsessed over never treated you right, but the moment you stopped caring, they came running back? That's not coincidence. That's energy, realignment. When you care more than her, you lose her. When you center her, she decenters you. But when you make yourself the center again, when your goals, your gym time, your peace, your business, your growth, all take precedence over her drama, she feels it. She feels that emotional shift, and suddenly you're the one she's checking on. You're the one she's thinking about. You're the one she can't read, because she doesn't know where she stands with you anymore. And that uncertainty, that unknown, that's the most powerful aphrodisiac a man can ever radiate. Not words, not perfume, not abs, just pure masculine uncertainty. And let's get one thing straight. This isn't about making her chase for ego. This is about finally putting yourself in the lead. Relationships need polarity. Masculine leads, feminine responds. When it's flipped, chaos reigns. But when you act like a man with unbreakable presence, she falls into her feminine without effort. She softens, she flows, she stops testing and starts trusting, because your energy told her, I've got it. And trust me, women crave that. Not being controlled, but being led. Being guided by a man who's not perfect, but rooted. Who's not flawless, but focused. And when you bring that energy into a relationship, she'll start doing things she swore she'd never do. Cooking, serving, supporting, submitting. Why? Not because you asked, but because your energy left her no other option. Once you master this, everything gets easier. You don't have to overthink anymore. You don't have to ask your boys what to text back. You don't have to decode her mixed signals, because now, your internal signal is clear. If it's not peaceful, it's not for me. If it disrespects me, it gets no access. If it pulls me off purpose, it's a distraction, and that clarity becomes your compass. It guides every interaction. It keeps your soul clean. And most of all, it saves your time, because now you're not out here chasing women who aren't even on your level. You're attracting women who feel your level and are working to rise to it, and that's a game changer. Do you know what happens when you make yourself the mission? You stop bleeding for people who wouldn't even scratch for you. You stop pouring into women who don't respect you. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to staying confused. You just build, you rise, you focus. You become so obsessed with your peace and purpose that women start asking each other, what's so different about him? And the answer is simple. You're not available the way other men are. Not emotionally, not mentally, not physically. Your energy is expensive. Your presence is earned. And once that vibe becomes your identity, you don't lose women anymore. They lose you, and they know it. So if you've ever asked, how do I make her fall for me? You're asking the wrong question. The better question is, how do I become the man she has no defense against? The answer isn't found in charm, money, or status. It's found in silence, in discipline, in emotional mastery, in walking away without explanation, in showing her that you don't need her love to validate your worth. And when you do that, truly do that, you stop being an option and start becoming the standard. The one she thinks about long after you're gone. The one she compares every man to. The one who didn't just touch her body, but redefined her idea of what a real man even is. Once you act like this, you begin to see through the noise. All the fake empowerment quotes, all the dating advice telling you to be more vulnerable, more giving, more expressive. You start to realize it was never about being more, it was about being real. And being real as a man means living in your masculine nature unapologetically. It means you lead, you protect, you provide, not just financially, but emotionally. And you don't do it for attention. You do it because it's who you are. And that kind of man, he doesn't bend to gain favor. He doesn't become soft to be accepted, he just is. And in a world where masculinity is either demonized or misunderstood, a man who stays rooted in truth, without hate, without fear, is irresistible, not just to women, but to everyone who's been starving for something real. You'll notice something strange happens. Once you embody this presence, women start confessing things to you, things they don't tell anyone, their fears, their shame, their regrets, their wounds, and you'll wonder, why me? It's because your calm makes them feel safe. Your lack of judgment makes them open. Your stillness becomes their sanctuary. And in that space, they become more than girlfriends or partners. They become devoted. Because the feminine wants to be seen, not just for her looks or her charm, but for her depth. And when you give her that feeling, not by trying, but by being a container of safety, she attaches emotionally, spiritually. She sees you as irreplaceable because no one else gave her the gift of feeling fully expressed without being rejected. When a woman sees that she can't move you with her silence, can't control you with her body, can't bait you with drama, that's when she starts craving your approval in a deeper way. Not because she wants to manipulate you, but because she respects you. And here's the part they won't tell you. Respect is the root of female desire. You can't force it, you can't demand it, you can only embody it. And when you do, she will humble herself. She will start doing things for you she never thought she'd do, not because you told her to, but because her body, her emotions, her instincts tell her to. And that shift, that moment when her ego dissolves and her femininity awakens, that's when she gives you the parts of her soul no man has ever seen. This version of you doesn't ask, what do I say to get her attention? Because your silence already speaks. You don't ask, should I text again? Because you're too focused on your mission to even care. That's the difference between chasing and attracting. Chasing is desperate, attracting is detached. Chasing seeks outcome, attracting flows in abundance. You stop measuring your worth by replies. You stop basing your confidence on her interest level. You show up the same whether she texts you 10 times a day or disappears for a week. Why? Because you no longer derive your value from the woman. You derive it from the man you continue to become. And that shift changes your posture, your tone, your presence. It transforms you from another option into the only option. Every time a woman disrespects you and you don't walk away, you teach her that your standard is negotiable. And guess what? She'll negotiate it down until there's nothing left. Until you're a shell of the man you were. Until you're walking on eggshells, afraid to speak, afraid to lead, afraid to say no. But when you hold the line, when you make her earn the right to be in your world, that's when the dynamic reverses. Suddenly, she's the one checking herself. She's the one questioning her behavior. She's the one trying to keep you. And that's not cruelty, that's respect. Because women don't respect a man who tolerates everything. They respect a man who values himself enough to walk away from anything that disturbs his peace. Let me say this bluntly. If a woman doesn't fear losing you, she'll never value having you. Not because she's evil, but because certainty kills desire. If she knows you'll always be there, no matter how she acts, she'll take your presence for granted. But when you become the kind of man who loves deeply but walks quickly, she shifts. She starts studying your moods. She starts being careful with her words. She starts treating your time like treasure. Because she knows if she slips up, you won't yell, you won't beg, you won't argue, you'll just be gone. And that fear, that silent boundary, that's what keeps her locked in, not to avoid punishment, but to preserve the connection she now deeply values. You don't even realize how much power you gain the moment you stop reacting. It's subtle, it's quiet, but it changes the atmosphere. She complains, you nod. She pulls away, you let her. She tests you, you smile. You don't fight, you don't chase, you observe. And in that observation, she starts losing her grip. She realizes you're not like the others, that she can't manipulate your state, that she can't drain your strength. And that realization, it triggers either her submission or her departure. And either one is a gift. Because the women who can't handle your groundedness will remove themselves, and the ones who can, they'll double down, they'll invest, they'll evolve, because they know what you offer is once in a lifetime. There's a reason women will sabotage stable relationships, just to chase a man with this energy. He doesn't promise them the world. He doesn't say all the right things. He doesn't try to fix them. He just is. And his isness is intoxicating. It's magnetic. It's the feeling of safety without smothering, direction without control, distance without disconnection. It makes her feel alive. And most women aren't leaving their man because he was bad. They're leaving because he was boring. He stopped being unpredictable. He stopped being strong. He became too available, too passive, too emotional. But the man who stays in his lane, on his grind, in his calm, that man stays on her mind forever, even if she never gets another chance. Here's a wild truth you'll discover when you live like this. Most women don't actually know what they want, but they'll feel it when they see it. They'll deny it, argue with it, run from it, but they'll remember it, and that it is you, the man who made them feel safe enough to be feminine, the man who didn't try to fix them but didn't allow their chaos either, the man who saw their soul but didn't sacrifice his purpose to save it. That's the man they can't forget, because he wasn't a fantasy, he was a mirror. He showed them who they were and who they weren't ready to be. And when a woman loses that kind of man, she doesn't just mourn the relationship, she mourns the version of herself she could have become. So brother, if you've been asking, when will she come back? Let me flip the question. Why do you even want her back? If she left when you were chasing, when you were vulnerable, when you were bending, why would you want to re-invite that into the new life you're building? You're not the same man anymore. You've learned how to walk, how to detach, how to command respect without saying a word. Why would you go backward? Why would you open that door again? Let her stay where she is. Let her sit with her choices, because the man you are now, the man you're becoming, he doesn't beg, he doesn't repeat, he doesn't settle, he moves forward. And the right woman doesn't need to be chased. She'll recognize you and rise to meet you. Once you act like this, you no longer seek permission to be masculine. You stop walking on eggshells. You stop filtering your tone. You stop watering down your presence just to seem safe or non-threatening. And the result, the women who are insecure, wounded, or addicted to control, they vanish. But the women who are truly feminine, the ones who want to surrender, who crave a man they can follow, who are hungry for masculine guidance, they start gravitating toward you like iron to a magnet. Not because you manipulated them, not because you chased them, but because your very existence made them feel at home. Your strength didn't scare them, it stabilized them. And that energy, that's the beginning of soul-level connection, not based on need, but on alignment. This is what most men don't understand. Women don't fall in love with the man who solves all their problems. They fall in love with the man who doesn't become a problem when they bring chaos. The man who listens, but doesn't lose himself. The man who lets her vent, but doesn't get emotionally hijacked. The man who sees her storm, but doesn't abandon his peace. That man, he becomes her emotional lighthouse, the one she seeks when her own emotions make her feel lost. And when she realizes that no matter how wild her feelings get, you remain calm, grounded, and present, that's when her walls drop. That's when her tests stop. That's when her femininity starts flourishing in ways that even she didn't know were possible. A woman will give everything, her love, her body, her loyalty, her soul, to the man who shows her he can lead without controlling her. It's a paradox. She doesn't want to be dominated. She wants to choose submission, and she only chooses it when she feels safe. Safe in your presence, safe in your decision-making, safe in your emotional discipline. And once she chooses that, her entire behavior changes. She stops playing games. She starts nurturing you, supporting you, feeding your mission. Why? Because she's finally found a man she doesn't want to lose. Not because you threatened her, but because the cost of losing your presence is too high. Because no other man offers the peace your strength provides. You ever notice how the more you text her, the colder she becomes? It's not because she's cruel. It's because your energy is saying, you matter more than me. And once she feels that imbalance, she starts losing attraction. Not out of malice, but out of instinct. Because women are hardwired to follow the man who leads. And if your behavior says you've made her the center of your world, you've already lost her. But when you pull back, not to punish, but to recenter, when you stop responding instantly, when you focus on your mission again, when your silence becomes earned, everything changes. Suddenly, she's texting you more. She's investing again. She's sweet again. Because your energy reminded her of who's leading and why she wants to follow. Once you act like this, you become emotionally untouchable, not numb, not unavailable, untouchable. That means no matter what she says, what she does, how she tests you, you remain in control of your center. And this terrifies women who are used to using their emotions as weapons, because they can't move you, they can't bait you, they can't break your focus. And that makes them submit, not just in body, but in heart. Because when a woman sees that she can't shake you, she stops trying to fight you and starts wanting to join you. She starts leaning in, showing up, calming down. Not because you demanded it, but because your energy commanded it without saying a word. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The more you chase her, the less she respects you. It doesn't matter how nice you are, how romantic you are, how loyal you are. If you're chasing, begging, or proving, you've already told her, you are the prize, and I am lucky to be near you. And once she believes that, she starts pulling away. But when you flip that script, when you show her you are the rare one, that your time is sacred, that your presence is earned, that you don't text twice, now she questions herself. She questions if she's enough for you. And that doubt, that emotional tension, that's what hooks her. That's what flips her energy. Because now, she's the one trying to impress you, and not the other way around. When a woman feels like she can't affect your state, that's when she starts adjusting hers. And that's where real power lies. Not in yelling, not in controlling, not in fighting to be heard, but in being so rooted in your truth that her chaos collapses when it touches your calm. That's how you win without ever raising your voice. That's how you lead without dominating. That's how you attract devotion without asking for it. Because your silence becomes louder than any argument. Your walkaway becomes more powerful than any explanation. And your peace becomes the most addictive experience she's ever felt. Because she realizes being around you makes her better. And once she feels that, she'll do anything to keep you. You ever wonder why some women sabotage themselves with good men? It's because the man never made her work for it. He gave too much, too soon. And her instinct kicked in. If it's this easy to get, it must not be worth much. It's brutal, but it's real. Women need to earn you, not just sexually, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And when you act like the man who makes her earn it, by not overgiving, not over-texting, not over-investing, she actually values the connection more. She cherishes your attention. She studies your habits. She asks deeper questions. She becomes present, because now your energy is scarce. And scarcity breeds value, and value demands respect. This is why you must never act like you're afraid to lose her, because the second she feels that fear in your energy, she holds the power, and people don't respect what they control. They play with it, test it, break it just to see what happens. But the man who doesn't flinch when she pulls back, the man who stays centered, focused, still, that man shifts the dynamic, because she realizes she can leave and he'll be fine. She can test him and he won't chase. She can threaten him and he won't react. And now she's scared of losing him, scared of being replaced, scared of waking up and realizing he's moved on. And she's the one still wondering, still checking, still craving. That's the power of detachment. And that's why she'll sell her soul just to be close to it again. So hear me clearly, once you act like this, not for one day, not as a trick, but as a way of life, you don't have to force anything. You don't have to perform. You don't have to chase. You attract naturally. You draw women in with your energy, hold them with your discipline, and keep them through your consistency. And the ones who can't handle it, they exit early. And that's beautiful, because now your life becomes a fortress. Only the real ones get in, and only the worthy ones stay. That's the power of this mindset. You don't control women. You don't play games. You just become the kind of man who no woman wants to lose, and who never loses himself trying to keep her. Once you act like this, even your silence speaks. You don't post for attention. You don't explain your absence. You don't try to prove your glow up. You simply vanish and build. You get in shape. You build the business. You lock into purpose. And what happens? She starts watching, quietly, anonymously. She checks your stories, your posts, your comments, not because you told her to, but because your silence became magnetic. You didn't tell her you changed. You showed her by no longer showing up. And that absence, It echoes louder than any apology or message ever could. It makes her sit in her decisions. It forces her to reflect. And in that space, she starts feeling something she hasn't felt in a long time: regret. You don't even realize the level of power you gain the day you stop reacting to women. The moment her mood doesn't shift your mood. The moment her coldness doesn't make you chase. The moment her games don't steal your focus. That's when she starts respecting you. Because you've now entered the highest form of masculine strength, emotional sovereignty. You are the sun. You rise. You set. And nothing she does changes that. You're not seeking to control her. You're just no longer letting her chaos dictate your direction. And when she realizes you're not trying to win her anymore, that's when she starts trying to keep you. There's a different kind of obsession that grows in a woman when she knows you're not waiting for her. She'll try to distract herself. She'll go out, post thirst traps, flirt with someone else just to see if it gets your attention. But you're unmoved. You're building, training, winning in silence. And now she starts wondering, has he moved on? That question becomes a virus in her mind. It spreads, it grows, and every day you don't text, every moment you don't watch her stories, every time you don't give her a reaction, it reinforces your power. And that void, that haunting absence, that's what makes her start valuing what she lost. Not when you begged, but when you disappeared without a sound. A man's power is directly tied to what he's willing to walk away from. And if you're not willing to lose her, you'll never truly own yourself. You'll start bending, you'll start compromising, you'll accept a behavior that disrespects you, all because you're afraid of being alone. But when you stop fearing solitude, when your own company becomes your peace, now no woman can control you. And ironically, that's when women start respecting you the most, because they see that your love is not rooted in need, it's rooted in choice. You don't stay because you're afraid to lose her, you stay because she adds value. And the moment she stops doing that, you leave. Without resentment, without games, without regret. The problem isn't that men love too much, it's that they love without standard. They fall for any woman who gives them attention, then spend the whole relationship trying to keep her interested. But once you act like this, love becomes sacred again. You don't give your heart to just anyone. You observe, you filter, you vet, you watch how she moves in silence, not just when she's trying to impress you. And only when she proves, through consistency, not chemistry, that she's aligned with your values, do you begin to open. That kind of restraint, that kind of discipline, that's rare. And the rarer your heart becomes, the more precious it feels to the one who earns it. You have to remember this, brother. Women are emotional mirrors. If you're needy, she becomes distant. If you're calm, she becomes open. If you're lost, she becomes chaotic. But if you're anchored, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, she becomes still, not because you forced it, but because your presence leaves no room for confusion. She senses that you know who you are, that you're not available for drama, that your peace is more important than her approval. And that energy creates a gravitational pull, one that she can't fake her way through, one that forces her to rise or be left behind. And in that moment, her soul chooses not based on what you say, but based on what you radiate. Most guys try to control women by restricting them, who they see, where they go, what they wear. But that's insecurity in disguise. A powerful man doesn't restrict, he selects. He doesn't control behavior, he controls access. And when a woman knows that your presence is earned, not owed, she naturally starts behaving differently. She respects herself more. She becomes more loyal, more feminine, more emotionally available. Because your standard inspired her, not forced her. And the beauty of this? You don't have to lift a finger. You just stand in truth. And truth doesn't demand, it attracts, it filters, it draws in the ones who are ready and repels the ones who are not. The day you stop being emotionally available to every woman is the day your life transforms. Suddenly, your energy is no longer spread thin. Your focus sharpens, your goals accelerate, your body improves, your circle refines. And now, when a woman enters your space, she feels the difference. You're not desperate, you're not seeking, you're already full. And now her job isn't to complete you, it's to align with you. And if she doesn't, you don't flinch, you don't get bitter, you just move. And that movement, without drama, without hate, without explanation, is the loudest message you'll ever send. And it speaks directly to her soul. I wanted you, but I never needed you. and because you couldn't see that, you lost me. The men women obsess over aren't always the best looking or the most successful. They're the ones who made her feel something she's never felt. The ones who didn't try to impress her but left an impression anyway. The ones who didn't text her daily but lived rent-free in her mind. The ones who didn't argue or explain but stood so tall in their silence that it echoed in her heart. That kind of man doesn't have to earn her desire, he evokes it. Through stillness, through focus, through presence. And presence, brother, isn't something you fake. It's built. Through pain, through failure, through self-mastery, through long nights and lonely grinds. And when a man lives like that, he doesn't just attract women, he haunts them. So remember this, the highest level of masculine energy isn't aggression. It's not bravado, it's not control, it's peace. A peace so unshakable, it calms every room you enter. A peace so rooted, no woman's games can pull you out of it. A peace so deep, she either aligns with it or runs from it. And that peace doesn't come from dating tricks or red pill quotes. It comes from doing the work, building the body, healing the mind, locking into purpose, and protecting your energy like it's sacred, because it is. And the moment you treat it that way, women will stop playing with you. They'll stop testing you. They'll either submit to your reality or disappear into theirs. Once you act like this, your energy starts to move ahead of you. You walk into a room and people feel something they can't explain. Women feel drawn, not because you're flashy or loud, but because your presence whispers a truth they've rarely encountered. This man doesn't need anyone to validate him. And in that presence, something ancient awakens inside her, something primal, something real. She leans in. She watches you more than she listens. She studies your reactions. Why? Because you're not performing, you're embodied. And embodied men don't chase. They don't seek applause. They just move, deliberate, calm, and free. And in a world of emotionally frantic men, your stillness becomes the loudest roar in her universe. A woman will never forget the man who made her feel feminine without trying, not the man who gave her compliments or tried to be the perfect boyfriend, but the man who looked her in the eyes and saw her without being impressed, the man who gave her space to speak but never changed who he was just to keep her around, the man who stayed grounded when she pushed, who didn't flinch when she pulled back, who didn't panic when she distanced herself. That man doesn't beg, he doesn't chase, he doesn't explain. He simply observes, and when she realizes he's not going to try to win her over, that's when she starts trying to win him. You want to be unforgettable? Stop giving your attention so easily. Stop over-explaining. Stop reacting. Let her sit in her confusion. Let her feel your absence. Let her wonder why her usual tactics didn't work. That space between your last message and your next word, that's where the obsession begins, because women don't fall for the men who are always available. They fall for the ones who feel rare. And rarity isn't about money or looks, it's about energy. It's about having something in your soul that can't be bought, copied, or replaced. It's about living with so much internal abundance that you don't need to be chosen, you choose. And when that becomes your reality, women don't just want you, they fear losing you. The man who knows himself doesn't compete. He doesn't gossip. He doesn't worry about what other men are doing. His lane is so deep, so personal, so locked in, that even when a woman tries to compare him to her ex, or another guy in her inbox, he doesn't even flinch. He doesn't argue. He doesn't flex. He just nods and continues building. And that calm confidence, that emotional poise, it breaks her. Not in a cruel way, but in a way that makes her realize she's finally met a man who doesn't fold. And in that realization, she either evolves or exits. But either way, he doesn't stop, because his mission is bigger than her mood. His identity isn't built on her approval. He's already chosen himself, and no woman can take that away. You want to make a woman question every decision she made after she lost you? Stop talking, stop posting, stop chasing, vanish. Not in bitterness, not in anger, but in discipline. Let your silence be the mirror she has to face. Let your growth become the message she didn't expect. Let your peace become the consequence of her actions. And when she comes back, and she will come back, you won't need to say anything, because everything you became in her absence will speak volumes. The man she left is gone, and in his place is someone she never thought she'd lose, someone she now knows she'll never have again. Masculine energy is structure, it's consistency, it's protection, it's presence, and once you embody that, you stop falling for chaos disguised as excitement. You stop tolerating disrespect because of chemistry. You stop giving second chances to women who saw your value and still gambled with it. You raise the bar, you enforce your standard, you live in alignment, and suddenly your life starts to feel clean. You sleep better, you focus deeper, you breathe easier. Why? Because you're no longer tied to emotional roller coasters. You've become the mountain, and not every storm is worth bracing for. Some storms you just watch from a distance and let pass. That's growth, that's freedom, that's peace. Once you act like this, the way women talk to you changes. The way they touch you changes. The way they look at you, message you, and speak your name changes. There's hesitation now, not fear, but reverence, because you're no longer seen as an option, you're a decision. You're not the man she texts while bored, you're the one she prepares herself to meet. You've become a threshold, a filter, a checkpoint in her life that forces her to grow or get left behind. And when a woman meets a man who can't be moved by lust, manipulated by guilt, or distracted by beauty, she either gives everything to be near him or leaves to find someone easier to fool. A woman's true nature isn't revealed when she's in love, it's revealed when she's tested. And yours? It's revealed when she stops loving you. That's the moment your real strength shows. Will you chase? Will you break down? Will you compromise your values to get her back? Or will you stand still? Because if you can stand in silence after she walks away, if you can remain calm while your heart bleeds, if you can continue building when your mind is spinning, that's when your power crystallizes. That's when you transcend being just another man. You become a monument in her memory. Not because you tried to be, but because you were unshakable in the moment. She thought you'd collapse. Here's the brutal truth, brother. Most women don't regret leaving the man who chased. They regret losing the man who never did, the one who never begged, never fought for attention, never compromised his peace. The man who stayed kind, stayed respectful, but disappeared without bitterness. And that kind of man, he becomes a ghost that lives forever in her timeline. She sees him in the man who doesn't measure up. She hears his voice in quiet moments. She feels the weight of what she lost, not when she's busy, but when she's alone. And it hits her not because he made her feel good, but because he made her feel safe, and she'll never get that again. So when you become this man, truly become him, not just for show, but in spirit, in action, in lifestyle. Understand this, you won't chase anyone ever again. You'll be too rooted, too focused, too peaceful. You'll love without fear, but you'll walk without hesitation. You'll build without apology. You'll lead without asking. And women, they'll feel it before you ever speak. Some will test it, some will run from it. But the right one, she'll surrender to it. And not because you told her to, but because your presence left her no other choice. You've become the man she was searching for in fairy tales, but who only exists in reality once you decide to stop performing and just be him. Once you become this man, the world starts adjusting around you. Not just women, but everything. Your work ethic becomes sharper. Your voice becomes deeper, not in sound, but in weight. Your decisions start coming from a place of power, not pressure. You no longer react, you respond. And that response is slow, deliberate, confident. People around you sense that they can't play games with you anymore. Your energy demands respect, without ever asking for it. And women, they don't just want to be with you, they want to be chosen by you. Because your presence now says what your mouth never needs to. I know who I am, and only the worthy get access. There's something about a man who knows he's enough without needing to be told. A man who doesn't wait for permission to move forward. A man who doesn't hesitate when it's time to let someone go. That kind of man doesn't carry resentment. He carries clarity. And clarity is the rarest masculine trait in the modern world, because it's forged in silence. It's built in moments where you could have broken but didn't. It's refined in seasons where you walked alone, kept building, and never complained. And when a woman meets a man like that, she senses it. She feels it. She starts asking herself, am I even good enough for him? And if the answer is no, she either levels up or leaves broken. Most men live on the emotional leash of a woman's validation. They rise when she compliments them. They fall when she pulls away. They shapeshift to stay in her good graces. But when you cut that leash, When you become the man who can love deeply without losing himself, you become free, and freedom is the most powerful form of attraction. You love her because you choose to, not because you need to. You stay because it's aligned, not because you're afraid to be alone. And when that energy replaces your desperation, every part of your life upgrades, because now you're in control. Not her feelings, not your fears, not your past, just you. Moving, leading, leaving. You'll find that the more you evolve, the less you explain. You stop justifying your standards. You stop apologizing for your ambition. You stop shrinking your intensity just to keep people comfortable. And that shift, it's intimidating, but it's also liberating. Because you stop asking, will she like this version of me? And start asking, does this version of me honor my truth? And if the answer is yes, you don't change a thing, because you've learned the woman who fears your strength was never ready to build with it. And the one who's meant for it, she'll feel at home in it. She won't compete, she won't complain, she'll simply follow your lead with peace in her eyes and fire in her loyalty. Here's the secret. The woman who's meant for you won't drain you. She'll feel like calm. She won't test you because she's healed. She won't try to break you because she respects the man you've become. And when she enters your life, you'll realize that all the chaos you tolerated in the past was never love. It was a lesson in boundaries, a lesson in value, a lesson in self-worth. And because you learned, you now attract from a higher frequency. You no longer entertain temporary feelings. You require permanent peace. And that standard doesn't scare the right woman. It calls her deeper, into maturity, into devotion, into the kind of love that follows strength, not weakness. You're not just building a lifestyle, brother. You're building a legacy, one interaction at a time, one boundary at a time, one decision at a time. Every moment, you choose peace over impulse, clarity over chaos, purpose over pleasure. You're stacking bricks, and one day you'll look around and realize you built your world, a world no woman can flip upside down with a text, a world no breakup can collapse, a world no betrayal can break. Because this world wasn't handed to you, you earned it, in silence, in solitude, in discipline, and now you only open the gates to those who respect the castle you bled to build. And yes, there will be moments you miss her, moments you'll want to reach out, to explain, to see if maybe, just maybe, she understands now, but you won't. Not because you hate her, but because you love yourself more, you love your growth more, you love your vision more. And if someone couldn't recognize your value when it was freely given, they don't deserve to taste it now that it's guarded by standard. You're no longer available to be misunderstood, no longer available to be tolerated. From now on, you're only available for alignment. And that line, that principle, it saves your soul. The reason most men suffer isn't because of women, it's because they forgot who they are in the pursuit of being loved. They became soft, reactive, emotional shadows of themselves. They bent, they begged, they broke. But the man who returns to his center, who anchors in stillness, who embraces solitude, who builds in silence, that man doesn't suffer anymore. He selects, and in that power of selection, he stops chasing chemistry and starts requiring compatibility. He doesn't fall in love with potential. He honors patterns. He doesn't tolerate chaos. He values peace. And because of that, the next woman he lets in will never forget the cost of being chosen by him. So stand tall, not in arrogance, but in remembrance. Remember the pain, the lessons, the times you begged, the nights you overthought, the days you chased. Remember them, not with shame, but with honor, because they built you. They showed you what never to do again. They cracked your ego. They refined your soul. And now, you're not just another man trying to get women. You're the man women lose sleep over. The man they can't control. The man they once had access to, and now watch rise from the shadows they created. Quiet, unbothered, unmatched. And when it's all said and done, you won't be remembered by how many women you chased. You'll be remembered by the man you became after they left. The man who didn't break, but built. The man who didn't collapse, but rose. The man who didn't beg, but walked in silence. And one day she'll remember you, not when she's laughing, but when she's alone. And in that silence, your presence will return. Not as a message, not as a call, but as a feeling. The feeling of a man she could have followed, but wasn't ready for. the man who never needed her to become a king because he already was one.